Make sure your insurance doesn't come up short. Get gap cover with ALA. For more information, follow the links in the description.
Hello everybody! This job has allowed me to do a lot of very, very cool stuff. But it doesn't get much cooler than this. On my bucket list, for as long as I can remember now, I've always wanted to drive a 100-year-old car. And in the history of this channel, I have come perilously close on a few occasions. A while back, I got to drive a 99-year-old Bentley 3-litre. And a while before that, I got to drive the iconic Ford Model T. But it was a car made of many different components, some of which we suspected were 100 years old, some of which were not. Today though, I can confirm I've done it, for I am driving a 108-year-old Cadillac. The first time, in fact, I've ever driven a Cadillac of any description. And what a way to start. Not impressed? Well, this car happens to be, I think, one of the most significant American automobiles ever made. A car that arguably changed the course of the motoring world forever. Why? Well, find out in today's amazing episode of JayEmm on Cars. What I'm doing this week has been made possible by my good friend Doug, who's put me up in his B&B in the Shillington area and got me in touch with a few of his classic car owning friends, including today the lovely Alan, who with his father Joe are real old school car enthusiasts. Now with luck, this is one of 4 different cars that the pair own I'm going to be driving this week. And this one is the oldest. So then, what is it and what makes it so remarkable? This is a 1916 Cadillac Type 53. It followed on from the 1914 or 1915 model year Cadillac Type 51. Itself already a significant automobile because it introduced to the world the first mass-produced V8 engine. The Cadillac L-head for its side valve layout, displacing just over 5.1 litres and making, believe it or not, 70 horsepower. Which, okay, I know some of us Europeans might say American V8s still do, but that was a lot. Just yesterday I drove a car some 50 years this one's junior, and that had less power. At the point in time this car existed, the automotive industry was still very much in its infancy, and so car companies and the people behind them were working out what it was that people wanted and how they were going to give it to them. Cadillac, then as now, was positioned slightly more upmarket, and so whereas Ford would happily sell you anything so long as it were black, with Cadillac they gave you a little bit more choice. And so with this you could have a selection of different wheelbases from 122 inches up to 145 and across 9 different body styles, including an ambulance, a police car and a hearse. And just in case you haven't worked it out already, yeah, this thing is absolutely enormous. I personally find it fascinating that cars in the early days, because they followed on from coaches, ones drawn by horses, they sort of followed the same formula. Then over time they began to shrink before eventually turning around and getting much bigger again. This car does have indicators, but I'm not so sure they're working properly, so I'm going to do it a bit old school. With this car, Cadillac also introduced the idea of the model year. So, for most years, they introduced a new car with a few upgrades, meaning there was always a reason to buy a new one. So this, the Type 53, landed in 1916, and it brought with it something rather significant, because this was the first time that any car had what you would call modern controls. So in front of me, a steering wheel, which yes does have this contraption here for the ignition, retard and advance, and also the throttle. But down here you've got the first iteration of the layout that we are all now familiar with. So clutch on the left, brake in the middle, throttle on the right, that's the lower of the two very small ones. Above it you've then got a starter, in the middle a handbrake, proper old school one, and here a 3-speed manual gearbox, which does not have synchro mesh, so you do need to be a little bit careful with it. But compared with that Bentley 3-litre that I drove, which is this car's junior, it's actually very pleasant indeed. I've driven only a handful of cars of this vintage, and I've got to say, this is by far the nicest and friendliest to operate. If I were to put anybody that's not experienced one in a Model T, you'd not likely have a very good time. In this though, it's fine. I'm not sure I'd want to drive it through London, and criminally it's not actually old enough to qualify for the London to Brighton, but it does work. Clutch biting point is quite high, steering, as you might imagine, is quite heavy. Double D clutch to get into second. Oh yeah, got that one well. Oh yeah, and it's a big old bus. Oh yeah, second and third. Whoa! High five. I haven't yet gone down a gear. I could never do that in the Bentley, and in this I know for a fact it is tricky. We do have some gauges down here, some of which work, some of which don't, including an ammeter, oil pressure, fuel pressure, speedometer, mileometer, a later retrofitted fuel gauge, which of course is not period correct, and over there a clock. This one is an open top body style, and you can fit in here up to 7 people. There's 2 fold out, almost camping style chairs in the middle. Visibility, as you might expect because there's nothing here, is fantastic, though I suspect on the Euro NCAP rating it doesn't do quite so well. In terms of fuel economy, we don't know, and Alan doesn't want to know. But would you really care if you bought a car like this? I don't think so. No, let's see if I can go down a gear. No, that's not going to work. Oh, yeah, shit. No, I got it. I did get it. Here we go, here we go. Oh, yeah. The car's even got some cool features like a collapsible steering wheel, or kind of folding steering wheel. Apparently it's called a Fat Boy. Yeah. Oh, yeah. The wheels have wooden spokes but with a metal rim. They've recently been refurbished, and he decided to not go with the original coating, which is lead. Apparently, woodworm won't eat through the lead, which is why they did it. The problem is, woodworm can still find its way in, but then not its way out. So you'll look at your wheels, think they're absolutely fine, and then find out they're just dust inside. That's not good. Suspension is by Leaf Springs, but I gotta admit, the ride is actually better, I think, than that old Bentley. In truth, the road here is also a little bit friendlier too. The steering wheel, as you got in all old cars, including ones way newer than this, is enormous and feels like it's trying to cut me in half, but that's fine. You also, I think, would struggle to find a car that'll give both you and to those around you quite as much joy as this. It's an absolute delight. And it started getting me thinking, you know, these are not worth anywhere near as much money as you might think. This is an incredibly significant car. The first productionized V8. You could argue America's love affair with that format started here. Back in its day, this was seriously expensive. The top of the line one costing the modern equivalent of over $100,000. And with its 7-seat layout, you could argue this is the OG Escalade. It's the Suburban for Toad of Toad Hall. Okay, over. Still getting used to it. Throttle pedal is quite sensitive. Oh yeah, double D clutch. Yeah, you have to wait a lot longer than you think to go between the gears. I'm still getting used to that. So we're in second now. Clutch up. Let the res die. Yeah, there we go. Ha-ha! They see me rolling, they hate it. I just can't imagine on a day like today, provided you haven't got too far to go, having more fun than in this. I just don't think it's possible. Wherever you go, people are going to love you. I had a hilarious conversation with some horse riders earlier. I tried to convince them not to be worried and that the motor car was never going to catch on. For once, they actually found my remarks funny. Weirdly, when you're hanging out the window of a Ferrari, they don't. There is a mirror up here, though it's kind of useless because after about 2 minutes it just flops back down, but that's fine, doesn't bother me. I know I'm the slowest thing on the road, and I know nobody else cares. You know that everybody that sees you is going, what is that? What is that brilliant thing? Ah, and it would appear I've fallen foul of the commentator's curse, for we do indeed up front have a horse which is not having a very good day. Oh, yeah, is she okay? Let's give you plenty of space, all right. Don't chuck that rider off. I don't like horses, but that doesn't mean I have to be a dick to them or the people on them. I think if everybody took that approach in life, the world would be a much better place. No, it's all right, you're okay? Apparently it was a leaf. Very scary one. I'll stick to my motor cars. All right then, after that diversion, how much are you going to pay for one of these? Well, apparently, maybe because of the age of them, the fact that they aren't the easiest thing to maintain, people just aren't really interested in them anymore, which means they're quite affordable. You can pick one of these up for under £20,000, a lot under if you're willing to do the work and get it restored. And the good news is, unlike a great many much newer cars, because these were all ultimately made by men in big factories with hammers, if you know a man with a hammer, you can keep it going. This is just brilliant. I love everything about it. I might have to buy a vintage car. But what one do I get? The nice thing about this is that actually you can get into it and drive it pretty normally. I've got a confidence in this that I never had in that Bentley. And I'm so massively grateful to Alan for letting me have a go in this. It's utterly wondrous. The brakes do actually work as well. Drums, and they're only at the back. Right, now here we go. This is a large road. This is the A6. This is serious. Okay, old girl. Have we developed the rapport that I think we have? Let's find out. Oh, so you weren't quite stopped there, were you? Right, here we go. Right, up and out. Double D clutch. Up into second. Going along. D clutch down. Into third. Yeah, first to second I can never get quite right. Second to third, fine. And we're off doing a speed. Which one, I don't know. Probably not anywhere near as fast as I think. In the immortal words of Mike Finnegan, best day at work ever. I love my job. I love my life. And I'm very, very grateful to the people that support me, which includes you, by the way. So if you've been watching this video and you've been enjoying it and you haven't yet subscribed, please hit that button. It costs nothing, but makes stuff like this possible. Roundabout coming up now. And the car will pull third from basically just above walking pace, so if I can, I'm just going to try and get straight through it. No, I can't. I can't. Come to a stop. You know, it's only when you start driving older cars like this that old movies make sense. You know, you get that rear projection scene and someone's there driving along the straight line doing that. You look at them and think, what are you doing? And then you drive something old and you realise, oh, okay, yeah, fine, fair enough. That's how cars were, isn't it? I don't really want to discover the limits of handling in this thing because it could go quite badly. Centre of gravity is fairly high. Don't worry, not having a heart attack. I'm sure some of these chest hairs weren't there when I started this. Full power! Test the brakes. They exist, but I wouldn't want to try an emergency stop. You can see, obviously, that this is moving me about quite a bit, but honestly, the quality of the damping is really impressing me. Steering's nice and keen to respond. Oh no, I forgot about this bit of the test route. Speed humps. Uh-oh. Take it nice and easy. My cameras are fairly secure, but I still don't want to put that to the test. Right, okay, here we go. Wait, oh, yeah, that was fine actually. Yep, and let's try the next one. Yep. We survived. So then, I hope you've enjoyed today's video, and if you have, not only would I like you to subscribe, but hit that like button too, comment down below, tell me what other stuff like this you'd like to see me drive, particularly if you've got one that I can drive, and I shall see you all for the next one. Bye-bye.